Sam, what's next? We're just pulling questions out of a hat. I don't know what these questions are. Sam does a great job of keeping me on my toes here, both in our real estate office and on this radio show. So apparently he's got just a bunch of questions from people, and I'm doing my best to answer them. Hope I'm doing a good job. But it's one of those interesting shows where I just wanted to switch it up today. So here we go.
Well,
what's the next one?
I do my best to keep you on your toes, by the way. I appreciate that. Okay, so this one's a long one. It's from Sydney, and it's, what's the average amount of years that people stay in their first home, and what are some things to consider when you're thinking of upgrading to a larger home? And that's from Sydney. So what's the average amount of years people stay in their first home, and what are some things to consider when you're thinking of moving or upgrading to a larger home?
Gotcha. Great question, Sydney. I think that average kind of it goes up and down the scale. I think it's around 7 years. It might be a little shorter than that now, actually, but it ebbs and flows with the market and the dynamics of the market. Obviously, if you look at a few years ago, well, let's just go back. Let's say 10 years ago, you could buy something for an incredibly low price, and then but the interest rates weren't fantastic, not like they are now. So you could, say 5 years later, you could go and buy something where you have had significant equity appreciation, price appreciation in your own home, and a lower interest rate, meaning there was a financial incentive for you to move. You could buy a more expensive home, but keep your payment the same. As time has gone by and as this market has shifted more and more and more toward a seller's market, I mean, if you look at the numbers in January compared to January in 2019, we basically put the same amount of homes on the market, but sold over 30% more real estate, which cut the inventory down from 4 months supply on average to 3 months supply on average. There's just just a shortage of homes right now. And I've been talking about this for years, but it's getting worse. We need people to put their homes on the market. Challenge is they're really having problems finding something to move into, which is a problem created by a shortage of inventory, which is also why we need builders putting inventory out there. That's a separate topic. But what do they need to consider when moving into a larger home? Well, I think that for a lot of people, obviously they start making more money. They economically are more upgraded than they were a few years ago. They can afford it. A lot of people do it out of necessity because they've got a growing family. Think about that. I mean, that house that you bought as a first-time home buyer just ain't going to cut it with 2 kids now, or 3 kids, or 1 kid. My God, I remember how much my life changed when I had a kid. And living in a 2-bed, 2-bath condo would not have been ideal. You can always make it work, but certainly wouldn't have been ideal. But we wanted to buy a house at that time that we could grow into, and we were okay with staying longer and buying a slightly more expensive house sooner than we anticipated because of the growth, but also because we knew that at the current interest rate, which was the current payment plus the down payment that we had saved, that we could afford it and not stretch ourselves financially if things got a little worse before they got better again. So I think one of the things that people don't take into consideration often enough is what life is going to look like a few years down the road. They're making decisions for the now. Not so much as it relates to like their family makeup, but their financial aptitude. Think about all the people out there that, and I know some of them, I'm not going to go there. I almost got myself in trouble, but there are people that live their lives paycheck to paycheck, and the more money they make, they don't get themselves out of that grind because they just spend more of what they make. Every time they start to make more money, they upgrade. The idea of living below their means is not something they've ever had to do before, because every time they get an upgrade, they get a raise, that debt finally gets paid off, then they just put more debt on top of it. And it's a problem that is running rampant throughout America right now. We see it all the time in folks that we talk to that are inquiring about properties we have for sale, and they make good money, but they're so maxed out on their expenses and their debt that whatever they make, they spend. They're not saving or investing it. So I think something to take into consideration is if you're going to move up into a larger home, be realistic about what you want and what you need, but also take into consideration the fact that there can be times where life isn't as good as it is right now. And if you don't have that safety net built up, you don't have that, that account that you can rely on if you lose your job or if you're in sales and business is slow, then you're setting yourself up for some real problems. So that's what I would say to that. That's probably the biggest thing that would be in the back of my mind is, are you making decisions for the now? And is your current financial picture a reality several years from now? Or if something happens, how much trouble are you going to be in? Because and maybe that's just me being bearish and the product of me getting into real estate in 2006 as somebody that had just graduated college. And then by the time I'm, 24 years old and I'm one of the top real estate agents in town and I'm helping people through horrific financial situations, loss of job, loss of income, medical bills, can't pay their mortgage payment. They're going to have to relocate their family or turn in the keys to the bank because they just can't afford to live there anymore. And what are they going to do? Those are really tough conversations to have. So I've always been a little more conservative financially in my own personal life. Obviously in business, when you hire me to market your properties, you'll see as we're going through the marketing plan that I am anything but conservative. I invest in many different ways to create exposure, and I invest in processes that make your life as a seller easier and our life as a real estate agent more efficient so that we can do more and be more available to our clients. So, hope that answers the question. And if you guys want to reach out to me and, talk with me personally about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, we'd love to have that conversation with you. My number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com.